Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, May 3rd, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. So today we have several major Marian feasts. The first one is Our Lady of Częstochowa, or sometimes called Jasna Góra, right? So northeast of the ancient city of Krakow is the small town of Częstochowa. Right? To every Pole, the name means one thing, Mary's Sanctuary. Right? On a nearby hill, the Bright Hill, or as it's called Jasna Góra in Polish, the monks of St. Paul the Hermit have a monastery. And it's in this monastery, it's in the chapel of Our Lady in their monastery church, is the famous painting of Our Lady. Right? Sometimes she's called Our Lady of Jasna Góra, Our Lady of Częstochowa, but it's the Mother of God holding the child Jesus in her arms. Right? We're told that the history of Our Lady of Częstochowa is the history of Poland. Now, one tradition holds that this image was painted by St. Luke the Evangelist on a piece of wood cut from the table of the Last Supper. It's said that the Christians of Jerusalem gave this to St. Helen, the mother of Constantine, and she gave it to Constantine, who put it in his palace at Constantinople. Right? So, when the Byzantine emperors, they were able to hide it during the time of iconoclasm, when they were destroying religious images. And in 989, when Princess Anna, the sister of the emperor, married Prince Vladimir of Kiev, the picture of Our Lady of Częstochowa was a wedding gift taken to her and to Ukraine. Right? So, in the 14th century, the picture was again in danger due to the Tartar raids. In a dream, it was made known to Prince Ladislaus of Opole that she wanted the image to be moved, right? And so it was taken to Jasna Góra, right? And at the same time, the monks of St. Paul the Hermit were invited to come from Hungary and to be custodians of the shrine, right? So during the Hussite persecution, heretics went and plundered the monastery and its church. They took the image of Our Lady of Częstochowa to the ground and broke it into 3 pieces. When they couldn't carry it off, though, because the wagon bearing the image couldn't be moved, one of the soldiers drew a sword and struck Our Lady's cheek twice. He was getting ready to hit a 3rd blow, but then he fell dead instantly on the spot. And that was enough to frighten his comrades into fleeing in terror. Right? Under King Ladislaus II of Poland, they tried to restore the painting, but they couldn't remove the sword strokes, so those remain to this day. Right? The kings of Poland have always been particularly devoted to Our Lady of the Bright Hill. As I recall, it doesn't say this, but officially, I believe she is the Queen of Poland. Poland has no queen other than Our Lady of Częstochowa, and that's why if you go to the shrine, you will see the scepter and the royal orb that represents Mary as Queen of Częstochowa. A little bit of history. On May 7th, 1957, Polish Catholics entered the first year of their Great Novena. It was a 9-year novena to prepare for the 1000th anniversary of Poland's conversion, right? Very beautiful there. Then we will jump to Alsace in France, where they celebrate Notre Dame des Trois Épis in Colmar, Haut-Rhin, Our Lady of 3 Wheat Ears, which commemorates an apparition in 1491. So we're told that on May 3rd at 1491, around 10 in the morning, a certain Thierry Sorere, a blacksmith, was going to the market of Niedermorksveer, which is a little French commune, tiny place, at Colmar. And he passed in front of a large oak tree where there was an image of Our Lady. Now, according to local custom, it was an invite to passerbys to pray for a man who had died a few days earlier. Well, good old Thierry, he got off his horse, he knelt before the image, and began to pray for the soul of the dead man. When suddenly, as he was praying, he was blinded by a dazzling light. It was the Virgin Mary, wrapped in a white transparent veil, who had 3 ears of corn in her right hand and a small piece of ice in her left hand. "Get up, good man," Our Lady told him, "and listen. My son, the people of this country have irritated heaven with their sins. Go to Niedermorskveer and preach repentance. Everybody must do penance in the shortest time possible, otherwise the crops will be lost. Tell this to the clergy, the priests, and the people. If sinners are converted, God will bless their crops. Do you see these 3 ears of corn wheat? They are the symbol of the abundance of beautiful crops that will come to reward virtuous, generous beings, and to bring well-being and joy to the hearths of faithful Christians." She said, "Do you see the icicle? It means that frost, hail, flood, hunger, and all the consequences of their desolations and evils will come to punish unbelievers whose seriousness of sins has been able to overwhelm divine mercy. Go therefore to the village and announce to all the inhabitants the meaning of these prophecies. Okay, and so the miraculous apparition vanished. Thierry resumed his journey, but he thought that, somebody's just playing a joke on me. So he didn't tell anyone. When he got to the market, he bought a sack of wheat, but strangely enough, he couldn't lift it, nor could anybody else. It seemed like it was made of lead and stuck to the ground. So the villagers were worried, thinking that there was some sort of black magic, and they accused Thierry of that. Then Thierry realized what was going on. He had disobeyed the Blessed Mother, and he had not accomplished the mission she had entrusted to him. So then, silence surrounded him. Thierry knelt, asked Our Lady for forgiveness, and finally fulfilled his sacred mission, revealing the heavenly apparition and explained the symbolism. Stunned and moved, the inhabitants listened with great respect, and they were so moved, and nobody dared to question his sincerity, so that, what happened? Everybody showed sincere repentance. Thierry quickly returned to the mysterious sack, but this time he could lift it up as easily as if it were a sack of feathers. Right? Then we also have another image in Poland. We go to Matawska Kalwaryska in Kalwaria Zebrodowska, and that is in Wadowice, right? Close. Wadowice is where John Paul II was born. It's the Calvary of the Mother of God. We're told that this image wept blood in 1641, right? The shrine itself goes back to 1602, which is founded as a Bernardine monastery modeled on Calvary in Jerusalem, right? So it became one of Poland's most popular shrines on pilgrimage when on May 3rd, 1641, the icon of Our Lady of Calvary was reported to have shed tears, right? If I'm not mistaken, it was in front of this image of Our Lady that John Paul II's father took him after his mother passed away and said, now she will be your mother. And lastly, we celebrate Madonna del Conte Ruggero in Piazza Armerina in Enna in Italy, right? It's the feast of the Madonna of Count Ruggio, the Norman. It's a flag that was given from Pope Nicholas II to Count Ruggero for the war against the Saracens, right? Count Ruggero was the vessel of victory and hope. And after this flag was hidden for a long time because of the persecutions against image, it was found by the priest Candiglia in 1348. And so that's what we're celebrating today, May 3rd, in the Marian world. For today's Marian meditation, taken from the book by Father Ildefonso Villar, we continue with Meditation 60 entitled Mary in the Public Life of Jesus. Today we'll consider point 3, Consolations and Disappointments. This portion of Mary's life abounded in consolations as well as sorrows. After all, man's life on earth is a mixture of joys and sorrows, of smiles and tears, perhaps more of the latter than of the former. So it was with Mary. How great was her consolation when she heard of the prodigies worked by Jesus, when she herself watched the crowds thronging around him, listening to him, acclaiming him, when she was made acquainted with the apostles and disciples who were escorting him, when she received news of his triumphs over the souls of sinners by converting them, and over the scribes and Pharisees by confounding them. How great was her joy when she herself could hear some of his speeches. How great her happiness when Jesus, exhausted by his labors, would come for a little rest to the little house of Nazareth. How she would wipe the sweat off his face. How lovingly she would serve the food her adorable hands had prepared for him. What intimate moments of holy and lively conversation were theirs in those days. How happy she felt in the company of her adorable son. But alas, how deep was her sorrow when she learnt of the jealous rage of his enemies, of their perfidy, of their insidious questionings, of their relentless questings and spying, of their ignominious expulsion of Jesus from the synagogue, of the plot to throw him down the ravine, of the attempt to stone him to death. How much she suffered on realizing the hardness of their hearts, the malice of their minds, the clumsiness and slowness of these apostles and disciples who could not bring themselves definitively to acknowledge and to accept him. For today's reading from The Admirable Heart of Mary by St. John Eudes, we continue with chapter 5, which is entitled The Heart of Mary, Abyss of Humility. Its sixth effect, meaning the effect of Mary's humility, was manifested in her relationship with Saint Joseph, whom she regarded and honored as her husband. "Behold a marvelous thing," says St. Thomas of Villanova. "See the Queen of Virgins, the mistress of the world, the very Mother of God, not disdaining to serve a poor carpenter, to prepare his meals, and to obey him like a dutiful wife. But what exalts her humility above all admiration is that she prefers to endure an unspeakable humiliation rather than to reveal to Joseph the admirable mystery wrought in her by God, and her newly received rank of mother of the promised Messiah. O prodigy of humility! Never has it been seen before, and never shall it be seen again." The seventh effect of the humility of the royal heart of Mary was revealed at the birth of her divine Son in a stable at Bethlehem. The sovereign empress of the universe went to lowly Bethlehem to give birth to the King of men and angels, the Redeemer of all mankind. Yet she found no lodging there, and being turned away from every house, was obliged to seek the lowly abode of animals. There she brought forth the only Son of God the Father, the King of glory, the sovereign Lord of all things. And she sustained these humiliations without a complaint and with most perfect humility. The eighth effect of the admirable humility of the Mother of God became apparent when she subjected herself to the Hebrew law of purification.
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.